Hey, welcome to the channel. I really do appreciate you stopping by and watching this video. This is my final thoughts on the Kendrick versus Drake comma pop out concert, comma not like us video shoot and recording in Compton. This is my final thought because I want to talk about other things when the video comes out. When the music video comes out, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about maybe some new music or whatever if it happens to come out. What's interesting is this. First and foremost, on this page, on these pages that I'm streaming to, we talk about elevation of mindsets. Um, the mission is impacting mindsets global. And so as a result, I find myself gravitating towards Kendrick because his music and his art elevates. It elevates you. Maybe back when he was younger, he did what everyone else, did because that was just common to do until he found himself, until he found his lane, until he found his niche, until he tapped into who he really was, you know what I mean, and who he really is. And he now shows forth through his authenticity and his music and his brand. I don't know him personally, but what's interesting is that most of us, if not all of us, have a sense of character, right? We can sense when people are authentic and when people are unauthentic. We can sense real. Real, oftentimes they say recognize real. And that's a fact. Most of us haven't met a lot of these people that we consume, you know what I mean, their products, that we consume music, entertainment, and et cetera. These entertainers, actors, influencers, we consume their product or whatever it is that they're selling and whatever it is that they're giving or providing, whether it be a service, a product, what have you, we consume it. But we can also, we sense when somebody is authentic or not. We sense when someone is really doing it from the heart. Like you can feel it. Sometimes it is palatable. You know what I mean? Just like when we witness what we witnessed, for those that were able to watch the 4 hours of the pop-up with Ken and Friends, you can sense the authenticity. You know what I'm saying? You can sense the camaraderie. You can sense the love was in the building. It wasn't just about stumping on this one person and showing face and making the world know that, hey, I'm better than him. It was beyond that. And you can sense that if you have any type of emotional intelligence, you would know that it was beyond the beef. You know what I mean? It technically, it was always beyond the beef. What I've found and what I've discovered, especially a lot of people that are commentators, YouTubers and influencers, people that are on social media, giving their take, providing their take, you'll sense a level of bias when it comes to their take. First of all, I'm not young at all. I was around when rap was, started. And so I've always taken a special liking to rap because it was, in my opinion, a form of communication, especially for our people. You know what I mean? Especially for the youth, the young adults. It was a form of language, even though a lot of the pioneers were much older when they started rap. Let's be clear. But the youth gravitated because it's almost like it gave us a voice. It gave us a form of expression, not just through the sound, but also through the art, through, when I say art, meaning graffiti. It could be art through dance, art through, clothing, the swagger that came along with it, the sound, the vocabulary. I mean, when you really begin to, because they actually offer classes like in colleges and university on rap theology, hip hop theology. All right. There are literally classes that are taught in higher learning institutions about rap because it is a part of the African American or the Black culture. The music is a part of our culture because we created it. We created it. and it is a part or an extension of who we are, because again, it's a form of communication. We can express our feelings, our thoughts, and that's what oftentimes rappers do. Either they're rapping about their situation, or they're rapping about somebody else's situation, their truth, or they're talking about maybe a fictitious, made up situation or scenario, but there's oftentimes some type of meaning in what it is that they're displaying or what it is that they're sharing in terms of their art and the creativity. There's a method to it, and so it is unfortunate because, and what's sad about the Black experience in America is that Black people, okay, would create things like peanut butter, the stoplights, many things that we often created, especially going back and back and back since we arrived here in the Americas. We created everything. And you know what the colonizers did? They created the patent. You know what I'm saying? They created the publishing. They created the lawyers, the institution, right? The industry, which makes it difficult for us to benefit off our property, of our intellectual property, which is the music, which is the sound, whether we're creating beats or whether it's, publishing, because of the lyrics that we created and we made up that made the song. It's hard for a lot of us to really break out as musicians in the industry. We have to go through or jump through a whole lot of hoops, regardless of how talented we are, in order to be discovered. Remember back in those days when you had to go through a lot just to be discovered. You had to go through a lot just to be seen, to be anointed as the next person, because they've made it so, making up their own rules to our game. This belongs to Blacks, and they've taken what we created and then they've made their own rules, and they've made it difficult for us to do what we do and be able to eat off of it. And that's only right. And not only here, it's happened all over the globe. I mean, when you look at Africa and you look at all the resources there should be no community that's impoverished. When you have literally gold mines, you have gold, call it blood, diamonds. You have all these things there, all these resources, all these precious gems and stones, but you have literally communities and villages and certain areas and countries that are parts of countries that are impoverished, and people that are suffering because they're not benefiting off their resources in their own country and on their own continent because of the colonizers and what they have done to manipulate, okay, the populace. They've manipulated them to get their resources. And then because, people that are like the face, or I want to say puppets, oftentimes they're puppets being used by these colonizers to manipulate the masses to continue on with their manipulation and control. And so it happens, unfortunately, all over the globe. And it generally happens in areas and territories where there's majority Black and brown people, because we're so giving. Even today, as much as we've been through here in America, and I'm not complaining, but I'm just keeping it real. I'm like, always keep it funky with you, always. As much as we've been through, we are the least malicious. As much as they try to paint us to be mean and evil and corrupt people, robbers, and those that steal and all these things, that is so not us. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but there are many groups by which crime is committed. It's not just a Black thing, and however, people are products of their environment, and it's just a vicious cycle that has been created. If they could not enslave and control, they find other ways by which they can enslave and control. And that's just pretty much how the system works. And so what we do to function is we try to avoid the system if at all possible. And then some people say, hey, we're outliers, we're going to go against the system. And that's what rap also is. There's a form of rap that does that too, that goes against the powers, that goes against the system. That's why you have the F the police from certain rappers, back in the day, NWA, and you have this, or Ice-T, and he would shoot and all of that. You have that going on because they were the vigilantes of that's not all of hip hop, but there was a segment within hip hop where it's like, we're sick and tired of being victims. We're going to be empowered, and we're going to take, we're going to protect our people. We're going to protect, what I'm saying, our brand. We're going to protect what belongs to us by any means necessary. So we have all these nuances, because then you have also, like in New York, when it was established, it was more about having a good time. It was more about self-expression. It was more about, okay, listen, this is where we are, but this is where I'm trying to be. It was about fun. It was about lyricism. It was about who was the dope lyricist. You know what I mean? It was about competition. It was about, just again, expressing your creativity, not only through your lyrics, but also through your sound, or, through the dance, or through clothing, or through art, literally. And so many, many different facets that really make up hip hop. And so knowing that, and knowing that we have to gatekeep our own culture, and we can't depend on other people to gatekeep, because they're capitalizing off of our culture, and they have capitalized off of our culture, whether it's the music, whatever it may be, whether it's cadence or our language. When Ebonics became a thing, and they actually wrote a book, and there's, you can actually Google words to try to figure out what certain words mean that would be considered Ebonics. Like, we literally created our own way of talking and speaking, because it was against the law for slaves to be educated. Okay. And so what did we do as a people? We learned to make life work. And that has always been a thing. We have this niche, this gene, whatever God has given us, where we've literally taken the lemons and we've made lemonade, because we didn't have any other thing to use. So we just used what we had, and we made it great, to the point where down the different type of, things, that the food that we eat, and what we would call soul food now, they literally took the scraps that were given to them, and they made it taste good. Okay. So from food and everything else, we're constantly being the trendsetters, but people, when I say people, meaning those that have the authority and the power, are constantly capitalizing off of us. So these are my thoughts concerning this whole situation, whether it's the beef, whether it's the music that was actually put out, whether it's the character of these two men, whether it's the pop out with Ken and friends and all the things that happened, whether it's the music video that was recorded in Compton and all the players, and then all the people that are the negative Nancy, and those that are really showing themselves to be envious and jealous and this and that. I just wanted to talk about that, because there are a lot of people out there, unfortunately, that are compromised, because they are leaning on someone who is not literally a part of the culture. I'm sorry, there's no way. You can make a whole lot of music, you can make a whole lot of good music, and you can be from a different country. We'll rock with you. We'll purchase your music, right? You can influence us in some type of way. There's a lot of African dance that we've been influenced by, African sounds that we've been influenced by. You hear it in our pop. You hear it, especially with Chris Brown. He's on this tour right now. You hear the sound that he's using. It's influenced by Africa, right? So we can be influenced by different territories and regions and people groups. But what we're not going to do is have somebody from a different country tell us, the people that created the concept, on how things are going to be, or allow for the industry to pick their pet and say, this is the person, right? We're going to fuel them with a whole lot of money, so that they're going to have power and leeway, so we can push their brand to make them to be the biggest of our industry, our lane, our genre, to say, hey, they're number one because this is the person that we've selected. No, you don't select, okay? Industry people, groupies, whatever. You don't select. The culture It's who selects, all right, who's at the top of the game. It's the culture. It's not necessarily in the record sales, because when you go back to the infancy of hip hop, a lot of them were unknown, but yet they were dope lyricists. A lot of them didn't make money, but yet they were influencing the greats of today by their cadence, by their style, by their tone, their creativity, by the sound that they created. They influenced them. And to this day, they'll tell you, oh, this is my favorite. This is, yeah, Rakim is my favorite. Kumo D is my favorite. I'm just making up stuff. LL Cool J is my favorite. Dr. Dre is my favorite. This is my favorite. Top 5 is this. These are people that came before them. And some of them, either their life was cut short or they didn't really make a whole lot of money. They may have been known, but in terms of like influence, a lot of them weren't as influential until after they passed away. If they passed away, then they became icons. But while they were alive, they had a very turbulent life, like Tupac, for one. Yes, he was beloved, but he became bigger after he passed away. Not because he wasn't capable of doing more, because he was very gifted and talented. I mean, from the beginning, he was very gifted and talented. But because of the rocky lifestyle that he lived, and again, it was very conflicting internally because of who he came from. He came from a people, his mom and dad, okay, listen, they were anti-government. So that was in his blood. And so it's just a lot that I feel like the youth of today, the young people today, that just simply don't understand. You're just writing for somebody that makes you feel good, or you're just writing for things that sound good, and you don't know the history. You don't understand. And what you'll do is, if you don't understand, is you'll literally allow for people to invade your culture, hijack it, and before you know it, it'll be watered down and it will become someone else's, just like colonizers do. They take what is valuable that belongs to you and they make it theirs. Okay. And so that's why we're hard on this. That's why we're being sticklers. That's why we're talking strong. It's really not about the Drake per se. All I'm saying is that it could be a whole nother person. It could be male or female. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who the person is. The point is that it's the culture, okay, that decides who is the dope MC. Okay. It's not the industry that decides, but they often do. And remember, back in the day, it could only be one person at a time. Today is a lot easy for you as an artist to, again, create your music, promote yourself. Unfortunately, it's much easier today than it was yesterday. You know, with social media, with the internet and access to the internet and access to information, it is a whole lot easier to become an artist today than it was yesterday. And oftentimes people say, well, you know, I can't, how can I get into, you know, the music industry? And a lot of people that are in the music industry are trying to come out of the music industry. I don't know if you noticed that dynamic. Once they get to a certain level, they're trying to become independent. And then those of you all that are independent are trying to become a part of the industry. Again, it is understandable, because when you are connected to industry, yes, you are connected to certain resources that you probably ordinarily didn't have. So what had to happen, even down to the deals that they had to sign, they literally felt like they were selling their soul. They got practically nothing for their sound, for their craft, right? All the work that they've done, they basically got nothing unless they toured. They didn't get money off the record sales, barely. They didn't get money off the streams, barely. They only got money when they toured. And that's not just rap, that's also R&B. That's a lot of again, it really doesn't matter what the genre, that's how the record industry was set up. We developed the sound, the genre. They developed and created the industry. They created the lawyers, okay? And that's why it's so important, especially for those of us that are interested in music, you have to be astute in entertainment law. You need to have an understanding of the business. You need to have an understanding of contracts. Okay. And again, you can't rely on an industry that's interconnected. They're going to feed each other's pockets. They're all in cahoots. You're the one, because you lack understanding. Most of the time, most people do, because of you just lack understanding. You don't know, you're not a part of it. And so they capitalize off the fact that you don't know. How many people have become known around the world? Remember TLC? There is a whole lot of, especially in the 90s, it's so many groups that became international groups, toured around the world, came home, like what is it, New Edition? They toured around the world. They did a international, national tour, right? Came home and went back into the projects in Boston. Y'all seen, for those of y'all that seen these documentaries and whatnot, when they finally get to the point where they're comfortable with really telling their story, it took a while before them to really start making. I mean, they these crazy contracts. It's like they literally, even Dave Chappelle talked about how they, within the contract, the wording of the contract, it says that they can use your likeness for basically eternity. And so people are so just excited of being accepted, right? And being a part of, and a chance of making their name great. But what's the point of making your name great when your economic situation remains the same? Your family's still, doing what they have to do to survive, scratching and surviving, right? Trying to have good times, while these record labels and execs are just living high on the hog, because they're making sure they're paying themselves, they're filling their pockets, they're making sure of that. Because why? They created the game. And so here we have these artists that, again, rap is what it is. Rap is competitive. Rap is like a sport. Everybody's proclaiming to be good at what it is that they're doing. Everybody is, okay? And so what do? It's like a contest. You have to put it to the test. And so for years, they went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth at one another, or just in general. I'm going to say in Kendrick's case, I mean, he was just putting it out there. Listen, I hope y'all understand, this is rap. Rap is a sport. So, we're going to be competitive. I'm going to get at you. I'm going to make sure your core audience is going to be hip to me. Okay, I'm going to take your core audience, because that's what rap is about. That's how rap has always been about. But when you don't really understand the dynamics and the rules of the engagement, people can take stuff very personal. And that's how it became. And generally, when you are not rooted and grounded in who you are, you can easily take it personal. And that's what Drake did. Now, again, it's all a part of the game, right? And I think that again, it doesn't take away from his accomplishments. Again, everybody can be good at something. Two things can be true at the same time. And I think that sometimes, you hear things, you hear what you want to hear. People have selective hearing. You hear how good Kendrick is, and it somehow in people's process, as they hear those words, they're assuming that people are saying that Drake isn't good at all. And that's not that. He's good at whatever he's doing, because obviously he's been able to make quite a bit of money off of what it is that he's doing. And even how he's moving, there's a strategy to it, right? And so the way that he's moving, obviously he's good at whatever the approach to remaining current and fresh, by connecting to all these new artists, these no-name people that are gifted, they're skilled, but just like all the folks that were displayed during the Ken and Pop Out concert, right? You have these youth, these young adults, these people that are gifted. They're rapping, folks that you've never heard of. You don't know their names out in on the West Coast, right? Rapping. They were being featured on one of the largest platforms they probably ever been on for most of them, if not all of them. Because, and I want to say to Kendrick's credit, allowing them to share the stage with him, again, it shows his character and it shows his heart for his community and for the culture. Because not a lot of people that are egotistical and narcissistic and about themselves will share a platform of that magnitude. Let me be clear. If you are on, it's me for real, and that's what you on, and it's about selfishness, you're not going to share that large. Do you not know how much or how many territories that concert was streamed to, along with that concert being packed to capacity? How many countries were viewing the concert and watching it right along with everybody was watching it together, celebrating together for those that were interested in celebrating with him and his friends. And so those that performed on that stage that maybe didn't have the big name like he has, or they don't have the prizes that he has and the awards that he has and the accolades that he has, they're no names to us, but maybe regionally and locally they're known because of what they're good at, you know, which is rapping and hip hop. But we didn't know anything about them, but yet he shared his platform with these people that didn't have a name. I'm sorry, most of the time you see the reverse. You see a person like Drake sharing his platform with people. Maybe they don't have the notoriety as like he does, but I will say this, they have something, a certain je ne sais quoi, a certain flow, a certain gift and talent that he does not possess, that he somehow gets from them, mimics from them, have them write for him so that his sound can be different. And so it appears as if, you know, he's evolving in the rap game, or he's creating something new and different, but it's really not him. It's the people that he's connecting with. It's the fresh bloods that he's connecting with and he's allowing to. And unfortunately, after the features, after going in the studio and having them write something for them or showing him, you know, maybe their flow or whatever, you really don't often hear from these people again. They don't ascend like he did or get a huge record deal or opportunity so that they can blow up. Most of the people that worked with him, you know, that consistently worked with him either had to break away and make their own way like Weekend, or they just, you know, remained in the same place that they were in when he first connected to them, or they're just regionally known and huge within their region or maybe within the culture. But those two things, what Kendrick did with the Ken and the Pop Out with the friends, and what Drake constantly does when he goes to these regions. Now he's in Houston, you know, probably connecting with the local rap artists there, and whatever newness that he can glean from them, that's not the same. That's not the same. Okay. And so you see that their values just don't line up. And that's part of why, because again, when Kendrick had an opportunity to go with him, or both of them worked on each other's stuff. I'm hearing commentary and they're saying, well, Drake brought him on his tour. Well, Kendrick allowed for him to participate on his album. You know what I mean? So, you know what? They're even. And then when there was opportunity to do features, Kendrick declined. When there was opportunity to do work together, Kendrick opted not to, because again, their core values don't align. So big ups to Kendrick, because he could have, like other people, used the opportunity, regardless of however he felt about him, just try to use him, for the layup, or use him for the next big thing. But that didn't happen that way. They eventually end up going in their own lanes, doing their own thing. And without Drake, Kendrick was able to do some phenomenal things, like having 17 Grammys. How many Grammys does Drake have? You know what I mean? The only rap artist that has a Pulitzer prize. How many other? No other artists. So he was able to create his own lane for himself, just being his authentic self and being great. All right. And so you see that now. You see him at this place and they're going, against each other the way rappers do. Again, they try to make it friendly in the beginning. Don't make it personal. Don't bring family into it. The moment you do, then everybody's going to go there, right? And beyond. And that's exactly what happened, right? And that's generally what happens even within our culture. There are certain people that are off limits within cultures, within not just the Black culture, but any culture. There are certain things that are off limits, like children, your mother, your wife, okay? There are certain things, your faith, there are certain things that are off limits. And the moment you step over that line, some people go ballistic. Saying all that to say, we heard the sounds that we heard. Y'all heard the music. We've been hearing the music. I'm not going to rehash the music. I just want to have the conversation. This is my final thoughts. But the majority of the culture, if not the population that listened to these sounds, decided that Kendrick won the beef by skill, through lyrics, through sound, and strategy. He won, okay? And then on top of that, once it's been decided, and I know, we all know because it's been reported, it's been talked about, that the higher ups got involved. Because being a part of the machine, being a part of the industry, you can't really do what you want to do. Okay. So they pulled on Drake's coattail because of what was being said, right? And all the things, the back and forth and how he was coming across was affecting his brand. He has $1 million brand. They're not going to allow for that brand to be impacted or allow for him to negatively impact that brand because he's an investment to them. And so he can't just do what he wants to do. They allowed it or whatever. They didn't interfere when it looked favorable for him. But the moment it turned a corner and Kendrick began to gain more of the favor and the momentum, they wanted him to kind of pivot and go on to something else, to try to change the conversation. And somehow, you know how we do in terms of our focus, we have a very short-term, focus when it comes to these types of things. Once the news cycle does what it does and focus, but what they did not anticipate is that people were going to go to Kendrick's discography. They were going to listen to his music because all the stuff that was said, and shout out to J. Cole, even the stuff that he said, and he eventually deleted his music because, as he said, he wasn't even in agreement with how he was moving because what he said wasn't accurate. It wasn't true. And so he had to delete his own diss track because he wasn't in agreement with it. All right. So people went back to the music and was like, oh, this music is kind of good. Wait a minute. Hold up. Wait. Yeah. And so more momentum, more views, not like us. Number 1, number 2, number 3. I think the lowest it is number 7 internationally. And so you have this momentum that hasn't really stopped. And then it ignited again all over again when the Ken and Friends and the pop-up. Now we have the concert. Everybody's streaming. Now everybody's talking about all the things that happened at the concert. Okay. And so now they're talking about that, which did what? Now everybody's back at the music again. Now the music shot up higher again on the charts and more conversation about Kendrick. and who came to the concert, who was on the stage and who wasn't on the stage. Now people are beginning to see, okay, who's really for the culture? Because again, now what has happened is, just like he said in his rhyme, I'm what the culture's thinking. And so what has happened is there's been a shift from it just being about these two individuals than it being more about the culture versus them. They're not like us, right? It's us against them. Ultimately, that's what it has become. And so when the concert happened and you begin to see the unification of gangs coming on the stage, these artists that represent all of these different sets come and dance around the stage together and hug on each other, and there be this strong sense of unification. You can't do that unless you are a person that is peaceful within. You can't lead a movement of peace and unity unless that's in your heart and in your spirit. And so that's who he is. There's people that would not, they just don't have the capacity to bring people together like that. And so people are now starting to show their true feelings, which is a lot of jealousy and contentment for Kendrick. Kendrick has worked hard to get to where he is today. He didn't have the layup. He didn't have the layup. He didn't have the benefits, that other artists had. He started off rough. I'm not familiar all with the TDE and everything and all that went down between TDE and the artists, and in particular Kendrick and TDE. I'm not all, I don't have all the breakdown of that, but I can only imagine, again, when you're dealing with the industry and you're dealing with labels, oftentimes very few artists get a really great deal. I'm going to say one artist, just based on my knowledge of hip hop in general. And like I said, I'm over 50. So hip hop has been a part of the language and the culture as long as I can remember it. But I can only remember one artist in particular that they basically where they were a partner with their record label, and that's LL Cool J. He was never screwed over in his deal. He owned his masters and all of the stuff. Like he had a lot of control when it came to the creative side of it, because he was very much a part of that record label because they were relatively new. I believe that he was their first artist. And so he was not, his money, he didn't have issues with the money. He didn't have issues with, maybe certain things had to change as he began to, get bigger, in terms of an artist, because he became one of the bigger artists, because, of course, he had opportunities that other people didn't have, of course, he was connected to Run DMC and so the brother of Run DMC. And so when you look into the background of these different artists and the opportunities that they had or did not have, you see that Kendrick did start at the bottom and he didn't have a whole lot of opportunities. And he had to, because of his genius, based on observation and based on what I've learned about his journey, he's not self-made, but I will say that through his genius and his ability to work through this system, he was able to build a brand. And that's why a lot of I've heard certain interviews. I've went back and in archives and listened to certain interviews, like with like Snoop Doggy Dogg and Dr. Dre. I can remember when he was interviewing them for something, they said, "Oh, well, we don't mind. We see you. You've done the work. You didn't come and ride off our coattails. Like you didn't come and get big based on being connected to us. Like you didn't use our momentum to get to where you are. You started from the scratch and you've built from that." And you know what? People that have finally reached that like Dr. Dre and Snoop and such and the like, they respect that because that's what they had to do. They didn't have anything when they started. And then opportunities came their way. They had falling outs with their label. They had falling outs with one another. But for whatever reason, it worked itself out. They forgave each other, they reconciled, and now they're all huge in their own way. But just understanding the industry, whether it's West Coast, East Coast, the South, just on the North, just understand like Chicago and all, just understanding how it goes in rap and hip hop. I think that you'll have a different lens when you're listening to these artists and when you're seeing all these things go on. You'll have to me, a different understanding, a different level of understanding when you're having to judge these situations. And when you're looking at it, it's not about my fave, it's not about this and that. And I'm not saying that Drake isn't talented. To me, he is extremely talented for him to have been where he is in terms of his position in entertainment for so long, doing what he's been doing. It takes a level of intelligence. You know what I mean? It takes a level of, craft. It takes a level of, the mere fact that you have to learn how to rap the way someone else raps. That is, not everybody can learn all these different, even down to the languages that he speaks. I know that they often mock because he goes into certain regions and he's, speaking patois in one region, and then he's speaking this language in another region. He's doing this and this. I mean, to me, that's a gift. You know what I mean? So yes, Drake is gifted. He did some acting. Obviously, most of us know him from Degrassi. Like literally, I used to watch it, before he came into the music industry and the entertainment and the music side. He was an actor and he did a good job, acting, in his youth. You know what I mean? So yes, he is talented, but he's not one of the top MCs as he wants to be. He wants to be, but there's a difference to wanting to be something and that being the reality. And most of the young men and people that have helped him along the way, they know that. They know that he is not as good as he presents himself to be. That's not to say he can't rap, but there's levels to this. You know what I mean? And so they also have had issues. The ones that have the ghost writers and all of these things that are coming out, and people are, they're embarrassing him for a reason. These things are coming out, and it's only people on his side that's leaking it. It's people that are tired of how they're being treated that are leaking all of these things, which is an indicator that, and again, even down to the collaborations he's had, the features that he had, the relationships that he's had, and the relationship that he doesn't have, the beefs that he's finding himself in. It's one thing to competitively go against people with rap, and it's a whole nother thing when you're sleeping with somebody's girl and now they can't stand you, or you're talking crazy and greasy about somebody's wife and now they can't stand you, or you've done other even worse things on a moral tip, and they can't stand you. So I think that when there's smoke, often there's fire, and there's too many people saying the same thing. So if you're the common denominator, then guess what? You're the problem. And as much as we don't want to believe that it's true, but yet when we see Kendrick and his camp, we see this camaraderie, we see this love, we see this loyalty, right, amongst his people. But when we look at Drake, we see him just kind of being this loathsome dove. And we might have some people that may ride from him on the social media front. But when it comes to like really going out of their way, you may have a few opportunists that may speak for him because they know what they can gain for being a supporter of him. But in truth, most of those people, if they had access to a different situation, or if they can make money doing something different than supporting him, they would. So it's not necessarily about relationships per se. It's about the business. And so he doesn't have close ties with these people. So now we're finding out that maybe his pen is not as strong as it seems to be when it comes to hip hop. Maybe when it comes to music, and that sort of thing, and pop, this alternative music. Hey, do your thing. But when it comes to hip hop, you're trying to present yourself to be something that you are not. And I think that the latter part of Not Like Us, I think it cut kind of deep, because when he began to break down about, our history, especially in the Atlanta region, when it comes to slavery and colonizers, and him going to each and every person, like, I believe that not only just him, I believe the people that were being highlighted in those lyrics, I think that maybe they felt away, because not many people came in the defense to say, nah, that's not it. He, no, that's not was, whatever. Not many people came in defense to say, no. People, it's almost like light bulbs begin to come on, as I'm talking about when it first came out, you know what I mean? When everybody was waiting and all these, diss tracks were being dropped. And when he finally dropped Not Like Us, and we were listening to it for the first time or first few times, people were like, wow, because something clicked. Light bulbs begin to come on and say, because if it's not Atlanta, where is it? Houston, St. Louis? Like, where is he going next? And how many people have we seen? We've seen videos of people complaining about, the cadence being taken with the XXX, whatever his name is, that young man that got eventually killed. He complained about his swag and his cadence being taken. And we've heard, what is it, Soldier Boy Drake, and all the hip hoppers, the true hip hoppers, the true rappers, lyricists that is a part of this culture know what time it is. The masses is just more about the music. We're not as vested in all the going ons when it comes to the lives of these people and how they get to where they're going. We just see once they arrive. We don't always see how they got there, right? We see the end product, which is the music. It sounds good. Woohoo, I love it. I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna bump it. And that's all we care about. But there is a backstory to a lot of the music. And that's unfortunately because of this beef, a lot of that stuff come out front and center. So now we have, again, Kendrick Lamar winning the beef, okay, legitimately. And so he decided, listen, I want to have a concert on Juneteenth, which again continues to cement this in our culture, in our history. This is going down in the history books. Like, I don't think people really understand what's really happening right now. People are going to be studying this years and years and decades later. They're going to be looking at this. This is going to be something that is taught in a classroom. Okay. Like I said, hip hop is taught in institutions. You can take a college course in hip hop. Okay. That's how deep it is, because there's so much money to be made, unfortunately, especially when it comes to industry. That's why people become lawyers, entertainment lawyers, okay? So that they can read contracts, so they can dupe these artists that don't know how to read contracts into signing their life away. And they're constantly making money off the backs of these entertainers, these young people, oftentimes young and ignorant, oftentimes youth that don't have nothing, didn't come from anything. They take advantage of you unless you know your business and take time to invest in yourself before you sign anything. They may threaten you, oh, you better sign it now. If you don't sign it the next second, then in opportunities, then let it be. I'm gonna make my own way. All right. But oftentimes people don't do that because we become desperate, and then we find ourselves locked in contracts that, is not working for us. And like New Edition, they were locked in their contract forever, it seems. I think it was like maybe around the time they did their biography, when they did that on BET, when they told their story. I think that around about that time they were finally getting out of their contract. You know, it and this is when they were since they were young. So you really got to be careful because these things are law, they're binding agreements. And when you are signing your life away and you're signing all of your publishing away, you become a slave. You become a slave to the industry. You become a slave to that contract. And whoever owns you, they own everything that is connected to you, even your likeness. Oftentimes, these contracts will even go as far as to say, I own your likeness. It's listen, that's why I'm saying it's much deeper. And honestly, Drake doesn't have the best of deal either. They gave him millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, but he's locked in. And so he's a slave to them to have to produce in the way and the manner by which he does. He has to. It's not that, and most artists they want to put out their best. They don't want to rush the process. A true artist wants to put something out that they're proud of. Okay. When you're constantly having to push something out, you're not pushing out a lot, oftentimes a lot of quality when you're having to push out something. And then what generally happens, especially with a good artist, is you grow with your music. Like Kendrick, I had to go back through his stuff because honestly, I'm relatively new to him as an artist. I've heard his name around, that sort of thing. Known he's done certain major projects. I've heard maybe certain songs, but I didn't know a lot about him. But as I began to dig, round about when this beef got started, I think I may have known maybe Drake more so than Kendrick. When I begin to dig, I see how he has evolved as a person as well as his sound. His music has evolved since he started, since his mixtapes to where he is today. He has literally evolved as a person. And as a result, his sound has evolved. And so the content is much richer because he's much richer as a person. But when you haven't grown as a person because you're constantly having to, and I feel sorry for Drake in that regard, because it's almost like he is almost being a slave because he's being forced to have to do things that he doesn't want to do. He's having to play the game. He's having to produce when he doesn't want to produce. They tell him when to put stuff out. They tell him when not to. They tell him to do that. That's not a good, like, even though you got all that money and you can kind of do what you want to do to a certain extent, that's still not the type of life that you want to live. I think most people want to be free, especially as artists, to really do what it is that you feel that you want to do, and not necessarily the pressure to have to put something out because you're contractually obligated to put something out every like maybe twice a year or so. And then not only do you have to put something out maybe twice a year or so, they have to be number ones because they have to recuperate the money back by which they gave you, because they've already given you in advance of over hundreds of millions of dollars. And so you are in debt to them. You have to pay them back. So that's not something, that's not a life that most people would want to live, especially if you're a true artist. You want to be able to get in your bag if you want to, if you want to try something new. And even if it doesn't work out, just the mere fact that you can try something new without the pressure. You know what I mean? If it's great, good. If it's not, okay. It was exploratory. You know what I mean? I was exploring with the sound. I was exploring with maybe a feature, or maybe I wanted to incorporate, a lot of other genres within what now we have, like, Beyonce going into, country, even though Black people started country music. Know your history. Right. And so she's like, you know what? I want to put out a country album. She was building to that. An artist should be able to do that. You should be able to make whatever music you want to make without the pressure of, nope, you got to stay in this lane. Nope, you can't do that. Nope, you can't work with this person. Nope, you can't do. Nobody wants to be controlled. So everything that happened at the pop-out concert was phenomenal. Phenomenal. Because it was history in the making. from the people that attended, from the picture that was captured and the one that we're currently looking at right now, from all the music that was showcased to the unity that was genuinely displayed. And they weren't just doing it for the sake of, you know what I mean, for the sake of the cameras. And then once the cameras cut off, they went back to their separate corners. No, they continued on with the celebration by creating the video to Not Like Us. And you know what's amazing is when you have such a great rapport with the city that you came from and from the region that you're from, because of all the things that you've accomplished, you've brought business to the community, you've uplifted the community. So of course Compton is going to be like, whatever you need, Kendrick. You need extra security, we got you. You need certain streets shut down because of taping, no problem. You know, filling out those, you know, request forms, you know, within City Hall, asking for this, that, and the third, they were easily granted because of the rapport that he has with his community. So hip hop and the culture has everything to do with community. We don't backbite, we don't stab each other. It is about a unification amongst the community, amongst the art form. There's a level of respect, even down to him honoring, you know, those that came before him, those that he respected, those that, you know, those that inspired him, even down to Snoop Doggy Dogg. He wasn't able to be there, and everybody was trying to crack and make jokes because he was in Canada. He was contracted and obligated to do a tour. And so you just can't just, you know, because again, this was spontaneous. This wasn't something that was planned a year ago. And, you know, as a result of everything that had happened, it just seemed like a natural, you know, move to have the concert on Juneteenth. And then from there, do what it is that he did, which was to tape or to video record the song, Not Like Us. Okay. But everybody else has stuff that they had to do, and not everybody could come. And that's okay. I don't really think that, you know, Kendrick is that type of person where he's petty like that. I think he understands that people got to be about their business too, right? And whoever could come, they came. Whoever got invited to, you know, present or to come on stage and to, you know, be a part of their friend group that was featured and highlighted, and they came. And whoever didn't, they didn't. But the mere fact that Snoop took time out of his busy schedule just to acknowledge everything that was going on and to say that it was beautiful, and he was celebrating right along with them, and just giving him the kudos that I feel like that he deserved. Bringing people together is not an easy task, especially when you're dealing with sets and you're dealing with gangs. I myself, growing up, is when we lived in Chicago. For those that know me and know my family, there was a season where we lived close to, we were like an outside of Chicago. We lived, my brother and I, my oldest brother and I lived with my father for like a season. My father and mother, they were divorced. And so I was raised in another state neighboring Illinois, but we would go visit my dad and that sort of thing. He lived there. And so it became a time where we were like, hey, you know, can we go live with our dad? And of course, you know, he was, you know, excited about it. We came and lived, but we were also exposed to gang life when we went to go live around Chicago. And so we were exposed to the disciples, and we were just exposed to these different groups and sets. And it was tough, you know, even though we didn't live like in a ghetto, it was like right in the middle. It was like maybe just a border connecting suburb slash herb. It was like right in the middle because my dad had a decent job. And so going to school was rough. Dealing with the kids in certain parts of the community was tough. Having to fight every day. You know, and so it was tough. So when you are constantly exposed to that type of life, where it's either you join us, and if you're with us or you're against us kind of vibe, and or if you're neutral, you still got to be careful, because you can still somehow be a part of the nonsense, because nonsense can happen at any given point in time. That's like living, that's like being on the edge. It's not fun. Even though I lived around there for like a year, and after that I was like, Dad, I want to go back to, I want to go here with Mom. Like I didn't feel comfortable living like that. But I can only imagine if I felt that way for 1 year, could you imagine being raised in that for 18 years, 19 years, or generation after generation? What type of mindset that you would have being raised like that? So it's a part of their subculture in California to have to be connected to a set based on wherever you live. So it's not easy to bring those ideologies together to share a platform, especially when oftentimes these sets and these gangs, they claim territory. And if you cross over and if you're wearing the wrong colors or you're doing the wrong thing, then it can set something off. So by the mere fact that they were able to come together on the strength of business and culture in one place, and not only just in that moment, but the practices and everything that led up to that, that to me that's a great feat. That's why Snoop was like, y'all, I'm proud of y'all. That's phenomenal. Like that's not an easy task, but it says a lot about Kendrick. That's all I'm trying to say. It says a lot about him as a person, because not everybody, especially on, so when you're dealing with that mentality, the set mentality and the gang mentality, it's about your people. It's about your subgroups. That's what it's about. But if you can still respect someone outside of that and y'all can come together on a business level or on a conscious level or on a cultural level, you can still come together and put all the differences to the side, man. That's powerful. And so that's what we saw. That's what we saw at the concert. And then for those of you all, and including myself, we haven't seen the video in its fullness, but we got glimpses and pieces all over social media, whether you're watching X, YouTube, into the Instagram or whatever, these shorts. A lot of people are capturing moments by which portions of the video is being taped right around Compton. And so it's exciting. It's an exciting time. But unfortunately, you have a lot of people, especially the people that were writing for Drake. And I can completely understand, because if that's your guy and you wanted him to win and it didn't work out the way that you wanted it to work or you thought that it should have worked out, I can understand being disappointed. Just like if you were rooting for your team, right? In a sport, if your team lost, you're not going to be also, now some people like myself, it's not really about a team per se. It's just for the sake of the sport. And maybe in that moment, I maybe prefer one or the other. But if one wins, it's not that big of a deal. It's just about the sport. It's about the game, the enjoyment of the game. Some people operate that way when it comes to music, or when it comes to sports or what have you. You know what I mean? And so I get it. I really do. But at the end of the day, I think if anyone is going to have the final say about what goes on amongst our culture, it should be the culture. It should be the people of the culture, and everybody else that was invited in and allowed to come in as a guest. Hey, come on in. You're welcome. You know what I'm saying? You're welcome. But to come in and take over or to dictate how it should go or how it should, just fall back. You know what I'm saying? Fall back. I'm hearing conversation. I think it might have been like one or two people, because sometimes when social media is like a vacuum. Sometimes when you hear things, you can make the assumption that that person speaks for a whole entire group, when that's not the case. It's just a person's thought and it's in a person's opinion and not necessarily a representation of the whole entire group, or a whole entire ethnicity. But the thing about I think it was the Mexican conversation. Shout out to all the Mexicans. I love Mexicans. I'm connected to Puerto Ricans where I'm at, where in the region that I'm in. And so shout out to all the brown people out there. Okay. And even my family got roots. Who's to say if we were to check our DNA, like where all we coming from? You know what I'm saying? So saying all that to say, on Juneteenth, you can't tell people on their holiday how to move on their holiday. You can't say as an outsider, oh, I should be a part of this, and you didn't allow me to become a part of this because I should be. No, that you have a sense of entitlement. No, you don't have to be a part of it unless we invite you into the party. Don't just assume that you should have a place in this. No, that's not how that works. It's Juneteenth is for Black people who were the descendants of slaves in America, whose ancestors were made free. And it took a minute for them to get the memo or to at least enforce it. So they were still enslaved well past the emancipation. Okay, so being that you're not a part of that people group, to tell the people that are a part of that people group that's celebrating their holiday how they should celebrate their holiday. That's whack. Just like we don't go to all the different holidays that are connected to all the other groups that are in America. It's a melting pot. We have how many different ethnicities and nationalities in America? We don't just bum rush and just say, hey, I'm gonna go in this community and I need to be a part. No, that's disrespectful. I'm just gonna have to quote a line from Kendrick: be humble and sit down. The mere fact that you're able to even be present is a gift. Okay, you're a guest. Welcome. That's about as far as it's gonna go. And I think at this point, either we need to gatekeep our culture and keep it 1,000 when it comes to our culture, everything that's connected to our culture, gatekeep it for ourselves. Because if we don't, every other group is going to be a colonizer and they're going to hijack it. And before you know it, they're going to water it down and they're going to claim it for their own, just like everything else. People become history revisionists. Before you know it, instead of Black people starting hip hop and rap, somebody else done started it. Before Black people created this and that, oh no, it's somebody else done did it. They are always trying. Now, we can't get the compensation that we deserve. At least let us get the credit. You know what I'm saying? Since you done took the publishing, you didn't hijack the industry, you done created the industry so you can benefit off our talent and off the backs of Black people. Okay, there's nothing we can do about that, unfortunately, right? Unless we do an independent thing, pray that work, and somehow or another, there's some independent artists that have blown up without the industry. That is entirely possible. All right. But it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of insight. It's going to take a lot of wisdom. It's going to take a lot of knowledge and hard work, but it can be done. But if we don't, as a Black people, stand firm on whatever, I don't care if it's music, I don't care if it's the arts, I don't care what it is, I don't care what industry it is or whatever. If it's our intellectual property, whether it's mine, yours, whomever, and it's a part of the culture, we need to gatekeep our own. We need to guard it with our lives. We don't need to allow for other people to continue to take advantage of us. That has always been the problem. And they always try to find a weak link amongst us. That's why the unity was so important. So y'all need to understand these are all interconnected, from the beef to the concert to the filming of the video of the song that is going to be like a theme, just like it's going to be all right. We're going to be all right. Okay. That's going to be a theme for the culture too, because the truth of the matter is that a lot of people are not like us, but they're yet capitalizing, trying to be like us. And that's the scary part. All right. So it's much deeper than just music. And I could tell in the comment sections of a lot of these videos and commentaries and all these people that's on social media are just talking, but they have no historical context at all whatsoever. And there's a danger when you don't know your history, especially if you are a foundational Black American. If you are a foundational Black American or an ancestor to a foundational Black American, it is so important that you know your history. You know why? They are erasing our history. the history that is being taught in our educational systems. They're history revisionists. They're literally changing it. Okay, right before our eyes. They're not permitting certain books to be read. And oftentimes people don't further their education beyond 12, beyond the 12th grade. People don't go on to college and then now you can choose, you know what I mean? What kind of, you can choose African American history or literature or whatever, or hip hop or whatever. You can choose all those things when you go off to college, but most people don't go off to college. And so therefore you're not exposed to that unless you have a household of an an educated parent or grandparent that will sit there and teach you the traditions. But unfortunately, most households are so busy where they don't have that dynamic. So they're learning a lot of whatever they're learning from the school systems. They're not learning it from their community because of the hustle and the bustle, and everybody's trying to get money, and the economy is going crazy. Everybody's working 2 or 3 jobs. We don't have time to teach our culture. Even to my kids, I think we were having a conversation about rap and hip hop, and I get it. Not everybody's into certain types of music, but it's just interesting to hear them say, hey, I would rather prefer jazz. But that's still a part of our culture though, because well, my sons are musicians, so they play. And so a lot of things, you know, they prefer certain, but it's still a part of the culture. So I don't have a problem with it because, again, a lot of hip hop was influenced by jazz. So again, but when you understand it, you understand. When you know, you know. And so I just want to say shout out to Kendrick. And these are my final thoughts. All these lies, please take the time to debunk them. Because what I feel like, especially in these comment sections to these videos and these people that are compromised, we, again, have to gatekeep our culture. So we got to tell our own truth. If you see something that's on somebody's video that's not factual and not really based on, you know, culture or whatever, correct it. Take ownership and pride. That's the thing. It's like, I feel like they've tried to make us assimilate. When I say us, meaning Black people, they want us to assimilate to the point where we become unrecognizable, where we no longer have a culture. And that's difficult to do because it is so much in our DNA. And then our culture influence a lot of other cultures. Like from food, whether it's food, entertainment, whether it's music, whether it's clothes, whether it's our communication, we're constantly exposing our culture to other cultures. And it is internationally recognized and cemented internationally. Our culture is distinct amongst many, many other cultures around the world. It is distinguished, it is distinct, and is often copied. And people gravitate towards it and they like it and they want to assimilate it and become a part of it, or try to hijack it, take it over. And I'm sorry, that's just not gonna go with me. I'm gonna pick my battles in the comment section. I'm gonna pick and choose my battles. But when somebody is so off to the left and they're really, really being compromised, I gotta set the record straight. And so I've made that decision today, that if I see something that is not true, I'm gonna take a few seconds and I'm gonna say, nah, that's not how it goes. And I'm going to correct, because you'll be surprised if you just let stuff fly. Like I said, literally, it can change the narrative. And that narrative can change the history, at least in a lot of people's minds. And if it becomes viral, then before you know it, it can become the thing and undermine all of the things that we've done to build up into this point. And I'm saying, as a group of people, we know what time it is. This isn't anything new. We're in 2024 right now. The same tactics that have happened over and over and over again. Like from the moment that Blacks got to America, they've been playing mind games. Okay, even coming down to this whole racial system, that wasn't a thing before. It was more about class, but that's even a system that they've developed to try to pit us against each other, whether it's race, whether it's class, meaning that, you know, hierarchy, meaning is the rich, the wealthy against the poor. And, you know, There's always systems that are created by the powers that be to try to create some type of rivalry so that we don't come together and be unified. Whenever there's some type of unification, trust me, you're going to begin to see some type of somebody trying to come in and infiltrate to cause problems so that they can break it and bust it up. That's what I'm saying. All that unity that was displayed on that stage, beautiful. Then what did we see? It wasn't even a 24-hour cycle. All of a sudden, we have this negativity coming from over here. Oh, this one wasn't at the concert. Oh, that one and this one didn't want to go. They chose sides over here. Now we have all these seeds being planted that's causing, again, now taken away from the moment, from the historical context that was displayed. And now we have all this chatter about all this stuff. I wonder what Drake can go on with his life and continue to produce good music. That's what Drake can do. Drake can, and you know what? He's taking pictures with his son as he should, with his fathers on Father's Day as he should. Live his life. A beef you're right. It is a moment in time. It is a moment in history. But after a while, you're going to have to pick up the pieces and you're going to have to run and make life work for you. He's not hurting financially. He's fine. Creativity. He's going to have to make new connections. But I'm sure that, again, money's going to always speak to a lot of people. Not all people, but that's a lot of people's love language. So they'll help you get to where you need to go, whether it be a ghostwriter or somebody that's going to come and collaborate or feature with you, because some people can be very desperate despite of, and there's always going to be that person out there that's going to be willing to do that. So take advantage of that and do what you got to do and make you a number one hit. But all that rest of that stuff, that rah-rah stuff, again, I don't like Drake that act tough. I like Drake that sing melodies. Go back to doing what you were doing. Continue to be great. You know what I mean? But in terms of our culture, hip hop, please, if you're invited as a guest, just know what it is and stop all the extra. Now, that's not to say you can't compete. Again, it is a sport. Hip hop is a sport. It is competitive. It's okay. And listen, if he would have been better, then it would have been what it would have been. You know what I'm saying? It would have been what it would have been. But that wasn't the case. And so we need to accept it. He needs to accept it. And then we just need to move on and do what we do best, which is make great music. And that's the end. All this other stuff, it's just got to go. All the drama that's brewing, it's just got to stop. Now, is there going to be another wave? They not like us. Yep, it is, because the video is going to come. And you just got to take that L. You just got to take it. That's what sports is about. You know how many times, I've been in sports. I played sports. We've lost. We've won. People get their bragging rights. That's just, it comes with the territory. It comes with and if you don't like it, then don't play. It's just that simple. Like, you can't say to a winner of a championship, you can't celebrate. You don't have bragging rights. That's not right. That makes me feel bad. That's not how that goes. That's why we have so many weak children today, because instead of giving trophies to the winners, we're giving participation trophies to everybody. Oh, we have a winner, but let's get everybody a participation trophy because we're all winners. No, we have one winner. And that's the person that won, or that's the group that won. That's the team that won. Those people, that person, that's the winner. Everybody didn't win. But that's the monsters that we're creating. That's why people have a hard time accepting no. No is good and healthy. Rejection is good because it helps to set you up for the real world. If you're always told, oh, sure, you can participate. You've made the team. You ain't no good. You shouldn't be a part of the team. No, that's what tryouts are about. What's the point of calling it tryouts? Just let people just come on the team if they want to join. Like, what's the point? Again, this is where we are in today's society. It is making our children soft and entitled. And when it comes to competition, they're going to be weak. I'm talking about when it comes to really competing with the rest of the world, with other people, our peer groups, when we get into the marketplace, when we're working at work, we're going to have a difficult time really moving and shaking in those lanes because we haven't developed the tough skin that we need to develop. This is a cutthroat world. It's a dog eat dog world out there. It's a capitalist society. American society is capitalistic, period. And so you need to be prepared for that type of world. In the ecosystem that you were raised in, that's not the real world. You got to get out in the real world and experience life as is. And you need certain tools before you get out there, or you'll be eaten alive. Okay, so this is that. Accept the L's, accept the losses, and learn and grow. You know what I'm saying? Sit back and do some type of a SWOT analysis in terms of indicating what happened. What did you do wrong? Instead of blaming everybody else and what they did and da da da. Maybe you need to take a long look at yourself and what you could have done better and learn from it. Because blaming everybody else for your loss or the fact that you can't get anywhere, that's not going to get you anywhere, but just stuck in a cycle. All right. So it's a lot of lessons that can be learned from this whole experience. Again, shout out to Kendrick. Shout out to the West Coast, because they do need to be celebrated, because what they did on Juneteenth was for the culture. So shout out to them. I can't wait till we go back to again, let's go back to what the East Coast is going to do, what the West Coast is going to do, what the South, because everybody has their thing. And when it comes forth, it's a beautiful thing. Just like from the moment that Kendrick dropped that mustard beat, everybody knew it was West Coast, because West Coast has a sound, just like East. The East Coast has a sound, just like the Southern, the South, they have a sound. Every region has a sound. Every region has a subculture. They have a history. You know what I'm saying? And so that's beautiful. And that's how it's always been. And guess what? That's how it's always going to be. All right. So let me get off my high chair, my high seat. I just wanted to just share that. And again, shout out to all those that participated, for those that really, again, on YouTube, on social media, that just shared what it needs to be shared properly and not putting out some false propaganda. We're a part of the problem. Anytime YouTubers are being paid and compensated, or they're doing favors or what have you, they're being compromised. Okay. And if you're really, again, I get it. People want money. They want views. They want clicks. They want likes. But you have to learn to also operate in integrity. You can get stuff, but you're not going to be able to keep stuff if you don't have integrity. Okay. If you don't have integrity and you can't sleep at night because of how you got where you got. Yeah, you can cheat and steal and get to high places, but you won't be able to stay there if that's how you're moving. And you won't be able to really sleep at night knowing that you've did things that you feel ashamed of to get to where you've gotten to. I feel like the Kendrick can sleep at night because he didn't abuse people. He didn't misuse or mistreat people along the way. And I'm not saying the man is perfect, because he's not. There's a lot of controversial things that surround him that I think people that don't understand, but you just need to take a few moments and maybe listen to a couple of songs. And I think that a lot of that stuff will be clarified. But he's not perfect. Not at all. I don't like the F bombs and the B bombs. I'm not a person. You didn't hear me cuss not one time. I don't curse. I'm down with Jamal Warner. We know him as Theo, Malcolm Jamal Warner. I'm down with him when it comes to, I feel like that they should be challenged and use other words. I don't think they should use the N-word a lot as much as they do. I know that it's a part of, we've put it like this. We've taken the word, we spent it, and we made it our own. But why are we using words and language from our colonizer? Like, no. I just don't agree with that. I never have. So I don't feel comfortable really using the word on like that. That's just me. So yes, there are some things I don't necessarily agree with when it comes to rap and the culture, and when it comes to language. I'm going to say this last thing and I'm going to bring it to a close. I had watched a short. There was a little white girl, so cute. She was rapping a DMX rap. It was a clean version. I forgot what song it was, but it was a clean radio version. It said clean radio version DMX. And I'm like, you know what? I feel like, especially if we want our children to really be influenced in a positive way, they don't need to hear all that B stuff. It's disrespectful. They don't need to hear all that. But do they need to be exposed to the culture? Yes. So they do need to produce clean versions of the music, because you'll see them when there's certain platforms like SNL. I saw the SNL performance where Kendrick couldn't say certain words. He had to flip it. All right. He couldn't use the B word, so, or certain other platforms, bigger stages where the language, or if you're going to international, there's certain words that you can't say, and you should be able to clean it up. You know what I mean? So I'm saying, they should have a clean version and an explicit version. So if people want to listen to the explicit version, okay, cool. People that want to listen to the clean version, okay, that's an option, especially for our youth and our young adults. You know what I'm saying? And people that are just not into all the extra explicit verbiage, they should take that into consideration. So I'm not necessarily, but I'm also within the culture, so I can criticize the culture. You see how that works? When you're within, you can try to fix it when things need to be fixed, or if you're not in agreement with how things have morphed to be, because it wasn't always that way. Just like we didn't always have gangster rap. Gangster rap came later. It was a lot of conscious rap or party sounds, and party rap. A good time is just having a good time, that sort of thing. Or just simply, they called it a lyrical gymnast, where they just did the play on words, and they played around with it, and how many different sounds that they can make, and ways of presenting, you know what I mean, the art and the craft in a different way. And later on it evolved into what it is today, but it didn't start out that way. And so again, let us continue to be gatekeepers of our culture, and if we need to criticize it, or we need to make some adjustments or some shifts, we can express that. We can always change and adjust to make things better. But within the culture, that is our job and our responsibility, and not another. I just also want to say shout out to Tariq Nasheed. Let me try to find his information. He has what is it? The documentary. Tariq Nasheed. What is it? Microphone check. Let me put on my glasses. I'm having a hard time seeing. Yeah, shout out to Tariq Nasheed. He did a documentary on hip hop. All right, let me find that so that I can promote that. I think that might be helpful. Let me. All right, so let me just kind of highlight it a little bit so that you guys can see it. I think this might be helpful. Go check this out. This is Tariq Nasheed's. It's on his YouTube page. It's a trailer of Microphone Check. All right, so just look for Microphone Check hip hop documentary, and you'll see. Let me take off my closed captions. Okay, so these are the founders of hip hop that have been interviewed, and they're kind of sharing the backstory of how hip hop started. And okay, so look up. I believe it's being I think it's in select theaters. Let me try to find it. Hold on. Let me see if it's out on theaters. Where is it at? Oh, let me see if it's on Amazon. Hold on. I think it might be on Amazon, or it's going to be on Amazon. So, okay. So basically, you can buy it on Amazon. Let me close it. Okay, so I guess they're going to sell So far, it's #1 bestseller. You can get it for $29.95. The DVD, the Blu-ray. So it's available. All right, that's Microphone Check. Again, The Hidden History of Hip Hop, the documentary film by Tariq Nasheed. All right, and then you can go microphonecheck.com. All right, so let's go to microphonecheck.com. Hold on. Microphonecheck.com. I think this might be helpful for a lot of people that don't know. Let me see if you all see what I see. All right, so this is microphonecheck.com. Again, dispelling the myths once again for and for all. Let me accept this, the cookies. All right, so you can go to the website also, and then you can buy the Blu-ray there. And they also have the trailer and all the people. It says, let me see. Let me know if you have any questions. No, I don't. All right, so the trailer's right there, and they also have some merch and all the other stuff. Again, I'm not, there's not a paid advertisement, but I do want you to get access to this Blu-ray. And I know that because right now you can see it in theaters. You can see it in theaters right now. So either you can try to see if it's being played in a theater near you locally. If not, you can wait for it to come out online. You can watch it online, or you can buy the Blu-ray. But that's what I would say. A lot of you all that obviously you're not going to learn any of the history of hip hop in schools. You're just not. All right. So if you want to know more about the culture and, kind of how it got started in the background, this would be a great start. You know what I mean? This would be a great start. All right, so go check it out. Go to microphonecheck.com, or you can go to Tariq Nasheed's platform. He does have several YouTube accounts. He's often promoting it and having conversation. As a matter of fact, he does a lot of hidden history about Black culture, period. Okay, so that's his lane, that's his niche. He's been doing it for years, and he has a lot of content and a lot of stuff that he's created that has really helped the culture and allow for people to really see and understand the history behind a lot of the things that we do in America as Black people, and our significance. You know what I mean? Obviously that's a no-brainer, but again, a lot of people are history revisionists. You know what I'm saying? Thanks so much for coming in support. I appreciate you, sis. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate you so much, Pam. Yes, I love the love that we all share and the support that we have. It's about the unity. It really is. I'm trying to see. Yeah, so it's just a lot, y'all. It's a lot. It's a lot to learn, a lot that we live through. And yeah. So go check it out. Check it out. Check it out. I think it'll serve you. It'll serve you well, so that you'll be informed when you have these conversations, and you'll have more respect for those that came before you, that in their own way, they didn't know what they were really doing. Like, they had no idea that 50 years later, we will be doing the thing that they established and they started. They had no idea. They didn't really understand that what they were doing at the time would influence us in the way and the manner by which it did. They didn't understand it at the time. Just like a lot of people that went on stage at that concert didn't understand how historical the moment was, and just like a lot of us that are in the moment right now don't understand how historical this moment is, and we just think it's just a moment when it's really not. And so you're going to look back, your grandchildren, your children, your great grands, however long we're going to be having access to the net, you're going to come back to these moments and you're going to laugh. A lot of us can go back to those moments where hip hop, hippity hip 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 hop, you don't stop rocking to. That's how it all started. and we thought that was fly. Like, we thought, oh man, oh yeah, but that was the jam. Like, that's it. Like, and it has evolved. It has evolved. Yeah. So thank you so much for stopping by and listening. I appreciate you. And I just want to say that, while you're here, why don't you go ahead and like the video? If you feel inclined to make a comment, go ahead and make a comment. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because we're trying to build these channels up so that we can provide more content more consistently, and we'll, you know, put more time into building it. But we definitely need your help in that. If you want to hear more commentary or other things that we do, because we do other things besides this. This is not, I know there are some channels that's all they do is review music. That's not what we do here. We're more about cultural context. We're more about mindset shifts and that sort of thing, and healing. That's what we do here. Coaching, it's about healing. All right. And it's about setting trends and being better versions of ourselves. That's why I resonate so much with Kendrick, because literally is a metamorphosis from how he started to where he is right now. Growth, maturity, and that's how it should be with the music as well. You shouldn't be immature, and hip hop is not one of those things where the music should grow along with you. Your music should grow along with you. Okay. Just like your art should grow along with you. And just like you see entertainers, you know, in their crafts, it should grow along with you. All right. So that's it. Enough lecture. I appreciate you. Again, thank you so much for stopping by. Let me go ahead and end this with the last but not least, our exit video. I got so many videos. I pressed the wrong one, I think, coming in, but that's okay. Thanks.